I was making coffee when my phone buzzed softly on the table. A message appeared. Short, cold as steel. You are not invited to the wedding. Liam's family doesn't want you there. No exclamation mark, no apology, just a few hollow words landing on my face like a slap in broad daylight. I froze, the coffee pot trembling in my hand as my mother's words echoed in my mind. You're always too much, Elena, she'd snapped at last year's dinner, her eyes flicking to Sophia as if I were the stain on their perfect family canvas. My mother, Margaret Pierce, the same woman who once held my hand through snowy streets, had now erased me from her life with a single line. I gently sat down my coffee cup, the soft metallic clink slicing through the quiet. My fingers slid across the screen, typing each word slowly. So you've chosen status over family. No emojis, no quotation marks, just the plain truth between two people who once called each other family. I hit send, my pulse racing, knowing she'd read it and stew in silence, too proud to reply. Right after I opened my laptop, logged into the wedding reservation account. The name glowing on the invoice was Elena Pierce. No one else's. I had paid the $6,200.00 deposit for my sister Sophia's wedding. They had no idea. They were so used to receiving what I gave, they never bothered asking who paid the price. I hovered over the cancel reservation button. A red warning flashed. Non-renunciable. Didn't matter. I clicked confirm. The feeling was strange. No anger, no heartbreak, just a quiet shift, as if a part of me had stepped aside, watching everything unfold with unfamiliar detachment. Mother used to be more subtle than this. She never said it out loud, but her glances when I entered a room, the snide jokes at dinner, the way my birthday slipped through the cracks 3 years in a row, all of it spoke louder than words. Why can't you be more like Sophia? She'd hissed once, her voice low but sharp, as if my existence embarrassed her. I was never really family. Sophia was different. She was the perfect daughter in their eyes. Sweet, agreeable, always knowing how to please. And me, I was Elena, the daughter who asked questions when money vanished from shared accounts without explanation. The daughter who never knew when to stay silent. Apparently, I didn't fit the kind of energy Liam's family preferred, all because I wore black to brunch, or dared to ask where the missing $3,500.00 in catering costs had gone while Mom waved it off with a casual, just trust me. You're so nosy, Elena had scoffed at that brunch, his tone dripping with condescension. Not everything's a conspiracy. I had always been the convenient daughter until they no longer needed me. But a hunt up my presence made the atmosphere heavy. They nodded without hesitation. I stared at the screen, at the line. Reservation canceled by account owner. A strange lightness washed over me. No one in that family expected me to react. They were too used to my silence, too comfortable with my compliance. But today, they were wrong. I closed the laptop. The small kitchen suddenly felt more spacious, as if I had just flung open a door that had been sealed shut for years. There was nothing left to hold on to. That message wasn't a surprise. It was merely the final confirmation of a truth I had known but refused to accept. I was no longer part of the family portrait they so carefully curated, the bitter irony. They were the ones holding the scissors when they cut me out of the frame. I can't even recall when my family last threw me a birthday celebration. Maybe when I turned 18? That year, Mom baked a cake too small for the number of guests, and right after the candles were blown out, she turned to Sophia, asking what kind of party she wanted for her big milestone next year. Your birthdays are so dull, Elena, Sophia had teased, laughing as if it were a joke, but her eyes gleamed with superiority. Since then, my birthdays had been reduced to curt messages, or worse, utter silence. Their excuses were always the same. Busy, forgot, the group chat must have glitched. But when it came to Sophia's birthday, the house would light up with balloons and oversized printed photos, as if she were the center of the universe. And me, I was mentioned when the kitchen sink leaked, when Liam needed help finding a penthouse below market rate, when Mom forgot her credit card while ordering wedding flowers. When Sophia needed someone to fix the wedding invitations last minute, every time it was me. No, Every time it was the walking wallet named Elena Pierce. Mom would say, "You're a financial analyst, honey. This money stuff is child's play for you." Liam was more charming about it. "You're the most meticulous person I know. Honestly, I trust you more than any of those vendors." His lifesaver, Elena, he'd purr, his smile calculated, knowing I'd cave every time. They said those things right up until the bills were paid. I was the one who found the wedding venue when Sophia dismissed all of Mom's suggestions as tacky. I was the one who contacted, negotiated, and got the price down from $18,000 zero, sent to $14,000 zero. Made a $4,200 zero cents deposit with my credit card, reassured by the familiar promise, "Small will pay you back as soon as Liam transfers the money." That day never happened. I was also the one who built the wedding website from start to finish. That night, while my friends were hanging out at a bar down the street, I sat alone in front of my screen, adjusting every font, every transition effect. And the next day, I heard Sophia sneer. "It's okay, but Liam will probably want to tweak a few things to better match the aesthetic. It's a bit basic, don't you think?" She'd added, her voice cutting as Liam nodded in agreement, both ignoring the hours I'd poured in. I was used to that. So used to it that it didn't even make me sad anymore. But there was one small moment, a very small one, that woke me up. It was when Liam accidentally let slip a comment during dinner. "Elena, if you don't help, who's going to handle this wedding? Sophia's not good with the meticulous stuff." I smiled. From the outside, someone might think it was a cheerful smile, but in reality, it was the smile of a person who just realized they were being treated as a tool, nothing more. "You're not exactly the star of this show, Elena," Sophia had quipped later that night, her tone light but venomous, as if my role was to fade into the background. Yet, invisibility doesn't happen instantly. It seeps in slowly, quietly, like mold in a house with shuttered windows. It started with the times they forgot to invite me to important family meetings with photos of Sophia trying on wedding dresses that I only saw through a mutual friend story, with Liam hosting an engagement party with his family and my mother beaming among the crowd. While I never received an invitation when I asked, Mom just shrugged. "Everyone thought you were busy. Besides, it's really a thing for the main families only." Main families, a simple compound word, yet enough to chill the entire dining table by a few degrees. "You're not really part of the vibe," Elena had added casually, his words slicing deeper than Mom's shrug. "I used to think that if I tried hard enough they would see my value, but in reality they already saw it. That value just happened to be the numbers in my bank account." Once Mom accidentally said to Sophia, "If it weren't for Elena, I'd have to hire a professional wedding planner." Imagine how expensive that would be. Sophia laughed, softly but loud enough for me to hear. "But we have Elena. Free. And dedicated. I don't know when dedicated became synonymous with being used. They didn't need me in the wedding photos. They only needed my name on the contract. They didn't need me standing next to them during the ceremony. They just needed my bank account to keep functioning." I realized in their eyes I had never been family. Just a servant in an invisible robe, always ready to bow at their call. And when that robe became cumbersome, they wouldn't hesitate to rip it off. The day Mom texted me to exclude me from the wedding, she had no idea that robe had long since fallen away. Only this time, I didn't bother picking it back up. I'm not the kind of person who likes snooping through others' messages. But this time, it wasn't snooping. A notification from the group chat Sophia's dream wedding crew popped up right in the middle of the screen when I was still the admin of the shared Google Drive folder. One accidental click, but enough to expose everything. The first line made me freeze. Why would Elena even attend? "Free labor's good enough." Below that, one of Sophia's close friends chimed in. "It works out, honestly. Let her handle all the heavy tasks. Watching Sophia's stress is enough to make her jump in automatically." I didn't know where that "jump in automatically" label came from. Probably from the countless times I patched up holes in the wedding plans they forgot. But what really made me pause was the next message. "She fits the support role better than being a guest. Always feels off-key, out of place, but not wanted," another friend typed, their words searing into me like a brand. 2 gentle words, yet more direct than any fancy phrases Mom or Sophia had ever used to justify the distance. I sat up straight. The coffee cup had gone cold without me noticing, its bitterness no less harsh than the feeling in my chest. The worst part was, I wasn't surprised. I had seen this coming from the way Sophia looked at me when Liam praised my choice of the ideal venue, from Mom's smirk when I suggested cost-saving ideas for the wedding. "You're always overthinking, Elena," Mom had snapped during one planning call, her tone dismissing my concerns as if they were childish. I just didn't want to admit it sooner. The laptop screen was still lit. Under Drive shared with me were dozens of folders carefully named by me. Sophia and Liam. Save the date, guest list, final, vendor, contracts confirmed. All were my hard work. They didn't know Sophia had used my Canva account to make the invitations. Liam even asked me to design the wedding menu he proudly showed off to friends as Sophia's creation, a systematic kind of forgetting intentional. I opened the main folder, hovered over the Remove Access button. One by one, the folders disappeared from the shared list. They would realize it when they needed to print invitations, when they wanted to confirm the restaurant contract, when they prepared the wedding photo slideshow. At that time, they would only see a blank screen and the message, "You no longer have access to this folder." I switched to the restaurant reservation website account. The email Elena Pierce work still had admin rights. It was funny how the person they saw as background support was the one holding the key to this entire wedding. I didn't delete the contract. I simply changed the reservation status to canceled by account owner. A simple line, yet more effective than 100 scoldings. Before confirming, I sent one last message to the group chat. "Enjoy planning without your shadow." I knew they'd see it, their phones lighting up with panic, but I didn't wait for replies. When they received the cancellation confirmation email, when Sophia's phone rang because the restaurant staff called to verify, and Mom frantically asked why everything suddenly disappeared, I would not be there to hear any explanations. No more emails from me, no more cleaning up their mess. I closed the laptop, but didn't leave my seat. The feeling was strange, not relief, not triumph. Just a quiet emptiness, as if I had just lifted off a stone that had weighed on my chest for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to breathe freely. I knew they would call. Mom would text, starting with, "It was just a misunderstanding, sweetheart." Sophia would accuse me of being petty, of not thinking about the family on such an important day. Liam would probably stay silent, waiting until everything settled before stepping in to play the role of the kind mediator. But this time, I wouldn't respond, because I used to be the one who patched up all their mistakes. Unfortunately, they never imagined a day they'd have to fix things on their own. And they'd soon find that out without anyone needing to tell them. That morning, just as I was about to shut my laptop after a night of erasing every wedding file, a pale yellow envelope sat quietly at the door. No sender name, no address, just 3 shaky handwritten words in the top corner, for... I sat down, turned it over, carefully opened it. Inside was a thick stack of printed papers along with a small silver USB drive. A short note sat on top. "You don't deserve this. Here's what they've been hiding." I didn't know anyone named Tara, but I recognized the handwriting. It was Tara Winters, a former colleague at my old company, the one I helped through a small accounting scandal that the entire finance department tried to pin on her. We weren't close, but apparently she hadn't forgotten. I plugged the USB into my laptop. A folder appeared, blunt and simple. Liam and Sophia, malicious and original files. I opened each file one by one. The first audio recording made my blood run cold. Liam. Elena transferred money again. "She's so easy to manipulate," Sophia's voice giggling. Liam replied, just as mocking, "As long as she still thinks she's the nice big sister, we'll keep using her. I haven't even asked her to pay for the cake yet. She's pathetic," Sophia added in another clip, her laugh crueler than I'd ever heard. "Thinks she's saving us, but she's just a doormat." I sat frozen, eyes wide open, and person asked, "Does Elena know what you've been saying behind her back?" Sophia replied, "Who cares? She never reacts anyway. Knowing how to stay quiet is a blessing for the whole family." At that moment, I didn't feel the rage I thought I would. Instead, there was a strange sense of clarity, like someone had finally pulled back the last curtain and let everything be seen under the light. I opened the transactions folder. Tara had carefully compiled all the bank statements, transfers from my account to wedding expenses. Total, $16,800, 0 cents. Each transaction was a bitter reminder of the dedication I had been forced to wear. like a uniform. But this time, I wasn't going to respond the way I used to. I opened my phone and created a new folder named Final Cut. Every recording, every statement, every screenshot was organized neatly, like laying each brick for the final blow. I knew Sophia would host the rehearsal dinner at Emerald Crest Country Club, just 25 minutes from my house. A flashy, luxurious place, perfect for exposing a truth far less glamorous. But I didn't want to stop at just embarrassment. I wanted them to taste the same feeling of being erased, reduced to a tool, taken advantage of without a hint of remorse. I call Vanessa, an old friend from the audit department, now running a data forensics firm. I didn't need to say much. She only asked, "Do you want full verification or just enough to protect yourself?" I answered, "This is going to burn, Elena," Vanessa warned, her voice steady. "You sure you want to light the match?" "They lit it first," I replied, my tone unwavering. Within 3 hours, Vanessa sent back the verification report. All files from the USB were original, unedited, with full metadata traced back to an old device owned by Sophia and Liam. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. The plan was clear: no drama, no show. I wouldn't send a scathing email nor write some drawn-out social media post like they always did. I'd let them speak for themselves, only this time I'd be the one holding the microphone. Everything would end at that dinner, and this time there would be nowhere left to hide. That afternoon, Emerald Crest Country Club wore its polished facade as if the word deception had never existed. Every crystal chandelier sparkled from the high ceiling, every delicate ribbon curled around the railings. Everything looked perfect, at least to those who had never stepped behind the scene. I intentionally arrived late. When I walked into the banquet hall, Sophia was beaming on a small stage. Liam stood beside her, his hand resting lightly on her back, as if they were the model couple everyone should envy. My mother sat at the front table, her eyes scanning the crowd with a fake look of satisfaction. No one expected me to show up. In fact, as I stepped through the door, a few heads turned with confused expressions. My presence here among those who had deliberately erased my name from the guest list felt like a system glitch disrupting the carefully programmed show they had built. I didn't speak immediately. I wanted them to savor that sweet sense of victory a little longer. It wasn't until Sophia raised her glass, preparing to give a speech, that I slowly made my way toward the podium. The sound of my heels striking the wooden floor echoed steadily, slicing through the whispers rising in the room. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, gently lifting a glass from the nearest table, tapping my spoon against it 3 times. The clear chime pulled the entire room into silence. Sophia stiffened. Liam frowned. My mother exchanged a flustered glance with my father, her lips mouthing my name but failing to form a sound. I placed a small speaker on the podium, calmly plugging in the silver USD drive. No one stopped me. Perhaps they were too shocked. Or maybe deep down they already knew something was about to happen. "Before the party continues, I think everyone should hear a few very honest things." Sophia's voice rang out from the speaker, crystal clear, without any distortion. "Liam, Elena transferred money again. She's so easy to manipulate." All eyes in the room immediately turned to the stage. Liam's face turned pale, but it vanished as soon as the next recording played. "As long as she still thinks she's the nice big sister, we'll keep using her. I haven't even asked her to cover the cake payment yet. She's pathetic," Sophia's voice continued, each word a dagger to the stunned crowd. "Think she's saving us, but she's just a doormat." The air grew so heavy it was suffocating. Someone dropped a fork, the sharp clatter tearing through the thick layer of pretense that had filled the room moments ago. I let the final clip play slowly, not rushing. Who cares? She never fights back anyway. Knowing when to stay quiet is a blessing for the whole family. Sophia took a step forward, about to say something, but I raised my hand to stop her. Not done yet. That was when Vanessa appeared from the back of the room, calmly walking toward me. The ID badge from her data security firm gleamed under the lights. "Good evening, everyone," Vanessa said, her voice clear and firm. "I'm Vanessa Carter, a data verification specialist. All the recordings and documents just presented are original files, unedited, with full metadata, directly sourced from Sophia and Liam's old devices. The data has been verified by an independent third party." Sophia stood frozen. Liam turned to look at her as if seeing the woman beside him for the first time. My father shot up, his face flushed red. Elena, are you trying to disgrace our family in front of everyone? You've gone too far, he roared, his voice shaking with fury. This is betrayal. I turned to him, my gaze calm. No, I'm simply reminding everyone who started the disgrace in the first place. You're no daughter of mine, he spat, his words meant to wound, but they only fueled my resolve. No one had anything else to say as I stepped down, leaving the small speaker to echo the last whispers of a group of people who once believed they had full control. I didn't need to say more. The truth was loud enough. The recording stopped. The room fell into a tense silence, so still I could hear someone holding their breath. I slowly opened my bag, taking out a carefully clipped folder, each page printed flat and precise, reflecting the preparation I had made for tonight. Sophia. I looked straight at her. Would you like everyone to know who actually paid for all these lavish things here? Sophia's face turned pale. Liam stepped back as if one more touch would shatter his entire facade. I turned toward the hall. Over the past 10 months, I have paid a total of $16,750.00 for this wedding. From the restaurant deposit, invitation fees, to the payment Sophia forgot when ordering the wedding cake, I raised the stack of papers, each one a bill, a bank statement, a transaction history from my account. I'm not saying this to ask for the money back. I'm saying it so everyone here understands that even the glamour you're seeing today was built on exploitation and lies. Liam clenched his fists but didn't step forward. Sophia was breathing heavily, as if one more sentence from me would bring her down. I handed the folder to Liam. You're the groom. You should know who you're about to marry. Liam took the papers, but his eyes were fixed on Sophia. At that moment, I saw clearly that there was no longer blind defense in his gaze. Only disgust mixed with bitterness. Sophia, Liam spoke, his voice lowering. You told me Elena always caused trouble, always made things up to drive us apart. But everything I've just heard, just seen, is real. Sophia faltered, her lips trembling as she searched for an excuse, but none came. It's not what you think, she stammered, her voice cracking. She's twisting it. My mother shot up, about to defend her daughter, but this time I didn't let. Enough, Mom. This isn't a private family matter anymore. This is the consequence of silence. Of all the times you taught me that family means enduring each other, I turned back to Liam. You still have time to choose. Liam tightened his grip on the folder. A few papers slipped to the floor, rustling like the sound of the last curtain being pulled down. I've made my choice, Liam said, clear and firm. I can't marry someone who treats her own family like a walking wallet and calls it love. Sophia stood, frozen. Liam, you can't. I can, and it already happened. You're throwing everything away, Sophia screamed, tears streaming down her face, but Liam turned away, resolute. The hall buzzed with murmurs. Guests who had been smiling politely moments ago now whispered, avoiding my family's gaze as if dodging a fire. My mother collapsed back into her seat, her eyes empty, like someone who had just dodged a most important piece on the board of reputation. The party wasn't over yet, but the so-called perfect family they had worked so hard to paint had already crumbled the moment I pressed play on that first recording. I adjusted my bag strap and walked away in silence. There was no need to look back at the wreckage left behind. I left the city on a misty morning with nothing but a small suitcase. My destination was Willow Creek, a town deep in the northeast where even phone maps took a few seconds to pinpoint its location. Exactly what I wanted. The temporary rental was an old wooden house tucked behind a row of crimson maples. The wooden floors creaked softly with every step, but in return, the balcony opened to a quiet little lake where I could sit for hours just listening to the rustling leaves and the breeze. In Willow Creek, people didn't care much about your background. They only asked if the weather was nice today, if the fish were biting this season. The conversation ended there, just enough to feel human without feeling intruded upon. I enrolled in a document archiving and historical image preservation class at the Community Cultural Center. The work was slow, meticulous, but it brought me a strange sense of peace. Every old, worn piece of paper passing through my hands had value, whether it was a crumpled letter or a blurry photograph. Perhaps because, unlike how my family saw me, these items were never treated as replaceable objects. During the day, I helped at the town museum organizing the archive storage. In the afternoon, I would stop by a small cafe on Elm Street where Mrs. Clara, the Silver Vein owner, always had a perfectly frothed cappuccino ready for me. Life here was so simple. It made it easy to forget the days when I had to justify my worth just to be acknowledged. I no longer felt anxious every time my phone vibrated. The suffocating calls, the demanding messages had been left behind since the day I walked away. But that evening, while I was sorting through documents about an old Oakwood monument, my phone lit up once more at a brief message. Sophia will be hosting a party to restore her image after the incident. Thinks you should be there so people can see the family is still fine. I laughed softly, a sound foreign even to myself. Still fine? I muttered, imagining Mom's desperate voice. You broke it, not me. I read it over and over, my heart unmoved. Still the same old mindset, where they needed a family image more than the essence of family itself. Still the way they made requests as if it was something I inevitably had to do. This time, instead of feeling pulled in, I suddenly realized they were simply repeating familiar lines, except I had long since stepped off that stage. I placed the phone face down, like closing an unnecessary page. No intention of replying, not out of anger nor avoidance, but because those people were no longer in my priority list. Freedom came quietly. It was simply the feeling of opening my eyes in the morning, knowing for sure that today I wouldn't have to strain myself to please anyone else. And that in itself was more decisive than any rejection. Since the day I left, the Pierce family seemed to have lost control, and they were used to living with the assurance that I would always be there, one phone call away to clean up their messes, handle their troubles, and of course cover any expenses when needed. We need you, Elena, Mom had texted days after the dinner, her tone pleading for the first time. Can't you just come back? I didn't reply, letting her words dissolve into the void she'd created. But this time, every phone call met with a long dial tone. Every message sent disappeared into the void without a single reply. They tried email, they tried reaching out through old friends. They even showed up at my former office where the new receptionist gave them a flat response. Miss Elena no longer works here. Lessons, little by little, eroded their confidence faster than any harsh retort ever could. I didn't need to say a word. They stirred up their own muddy waters, and now they had to wade through it without anyone to hold their hand. One morning, while I was organizing photo archives at the town museum, I received an email from a legal address. It wasn't addressed to me, but it was a notification about Mr. Ronald Pierce, my father, being investigated for illegal property transfers. I wasn't surprised. Last year, while struggling with credit card debts and a bruised ego from early retirement, he had attempted to mortgage the family land, the only remaining asset still under my name for many years. The thing was, back then, I had quietly taken legal steps to protect ownership, locking the transaction with restrictive clauses. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't cancel his actions. I simply let things play out. And when Mr. Pierce aggressively tried to negotiate that land once more, those clauses automatically activated. The contract was nullified and the records were immediately reported to the Asset Audit Authority. They called it property fraud. I didn't intervene. I didn't need to. Just like with Sophia and Liam, all I did was stop patching up the holes they had dug themselves. You've destroyed us. Dad's last voicemail had raged, his voice breaking. I deleted it without a second thought, his accusations no longer holding weight. When I was still there, I naively thought I was preserving a family. But in reality, I was merely dragged in to be a support pillar for a structure already rotten from the inside. Without me, they crumbled. Not because I pushed, but because their foundation of lies had no anchor left. From Willow Creek, I read news about my old family, as if watching a play whose ending I already knew. The press mentioned the investigation into Mr. Pierce. Rumors spread about Liam being ousted from his financial management position at the company after wedding ghost expenses were exposed. Sophia, in an attempt to salvage some spotlight, hosted a live stream. But the audience focused only on questions about the family scandal, ignoring the product she was trying to sell. I felt no joy. The comfort I felt came from something else. Peace and quiet. When freed from expectations, pressures, and the role of the ideal big sister, I finally realized how trapped I had been. I began spending more time at the museum, taking on additional photo restoration projects for the local library. Old, faded photos, seemingly worthless, became clear again under my hands. They deserved to be restored to their true value without being exploited or showcased for false glory. One afternoon, while editing a portrait from the 1940s, Mrs. Clara gently placed a letter in front of me. Not from family. It was an offer to manage the long-term archives for the Willow Creek heritage. I smiled, not a victorious smile, nor a smug one. Simply the smile of someone who knows they have finally written a new chapter for themselves without anyone directing from behind. Here, among people who didn't question the past, I found the version of Elena I had long forgotten. Calm, steady, and completely free. I closed the last bank account linked to the Pierce family on an early spring morning. The card tied to every emergency rescue was cut in half and dropped into the bank's recycling bin. That gesture felt strangely light, as if I had untied a rope that had been strangling my chest for years. Next was the phone number. Think blocking is what people do when they still care. I wiped every trace clean, switched to a new service, even changed my identity on the contract. From that moment on, every call, every message, every familiar cry for help from my old family would echo into nothingness. I also cleaned up my personal accounts. The access Sophia once used to edit the wedding website, the shared documents with Mom and Liam. Each one was deleted. The access history was closed forever. Everything they once considered shared assets now only existed in their memories. On the other side, the Pierce family must have started feeling adrift. For years, they lived comfortably with my silent presence as an invisible insurance policy. Now, with that umbrella taken away, the real storm was revealed. They could survive scandals. They knew how to polish their image after each fall, but without a cleanup crew, without someone to handle the aftermath, even the smallest cracks magnified into irreparable fractures. The entire family struggled in an information blackout. They were used to the feeling of pulling my strings like a compliant puppet. Now, when they tugged, they only grasped at empty air, lost like wanderers in the maze they had built themselves. News of Mr. Pierce's investigation for asset fraud spread faster than they anticipated. Shady transactions, reckless loans funneled into dubious projects. Everything was laid bare without the backstage hand to clean it up. I added nothing to it. Everything simply followed its natural course of consequences. Just like Sophia, since the day Liam called off the wedding, she scrambled to build a new facade on social media. But her act lacked one crucial element: my silent support. Without someone skillfully editing, erasing traces of mistakes, old cracks began to resurface clearly. Negative comments piled up. Sponsorship deals slowly vanished. Liam, too, floundered with company funds he could no longer account for. From Willow Creek, I watched everything, as if seeing paper kites with their strings cut, swaying helplessly in the strong wind. Each person drifting in a different direction, staggering and fragile. I no longer had to be responsible for them. Instead, I focused on smaller yet much sturdier values: a well-organized archive, a historical photo restoration project about to start at the county library, a community that didn't care where I came from, only what I was doing. One afternoon, while labeling a batch of old files, I caught my own reflection in the glass of a display cabinet. It was a different Elena, calm, steady, no longer chasing after someone else's definition of self-worth. Willow Creek eased into winter as slowly as its pace of life. Each morning, thin veils of mist floated lazily over the lake, the wind slipping through wooden shutters, leaving a gentle, non-biting chill. I grew accustomed to opening my eyes without the sound of any notification ringing. My schedule had become so simple, it felt peaceful. Mornings at the library, afternoons at the museum, evenings back at the small cabin under the maples, lighting a candle to read or simply sitting quietly, listening to the crackling firewood in the stove. The silence that once felt empty was now the only thing that let me truly feel the fullness of each moment. Myself, the work I was doing, the choices I was living, all were enough without anyone's recognition. One early January day, I stopped by the town post office to pick up a shipment of research books. The clerk, Nora, handed me another envelope with no sender's name. Inside was a simple printout, a logo, no header, just a faded photo. The Pierce family, at a recent event, it wasn't in it. The photo was sent as a subtle reminder, or perhaps as an effort to pull me back into that outdated frame. "Come back, Elena," I imagined Mom's voice pleading through the image. But it was too late for their games. I folded the paper and placed it on the counter. Instead of bringing it home, I asked Nora to place it in the recycling tray at the back. The past didn't need to be torn apart or exposed. It just needed to be neatly folded away and left to fade on its own. On the way back, I stopped by the wood carving shop where Mr. Walter, an old craftsman who had lived in Willow Creek since before my father was born, was finishing a new wooden sign for the library. He asked if I wanted to engrave my name on the mailbox soon to be installed at my cabin. I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No name needed, sir, just a sentence." I handed him a small note on which I had written, "This mailbox does not accept expectations from others." Walter read it, nodded without saying more. A few days later, the small sign was neatly mounted next to the dark brown mailbox, standing out against the white snow covering the path. I gazed at that sentence under the dim afternoon light. Small symbol, yet clearer than any declaration I had ever heard. Peace doesn't come from victories or bringing others down. It comes from the moment you realize you've chosen to step away from that race long ago. The Pierce family might keep searching for me in the corners of the stories they fabricate. They can build as many new narratives as they want. The only thing they can no longer do is place me back into my old role in their story. I had written my own version slowly, meticulously, without embellishment. And that was the true final blow. Elena's story is not a loud revenge, but a journey of letting go of toxic ties to rediscover her true worth. She didn't win by defeating anyone, but by stepping away from a game where she was only seen as a tool. In today's world, sometimes strength doesn't lie in fighting back or proving oneself, but in the choice to stay silent, to walk away, to live a decent life on your own terms, and let those who once exploited you face the consequences themselves. If you were Elena, standing where family betrayal cut deepest, would you expose their lies as she did, or choose a quieter exit? How would you rewrite your story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel to explore more meaningful stories about family,